Hello, people that know how's it doing? Today, I suppose people knew I was going to talk about this at some stage, but finally we kind of came to it and I decided to talk about it today. So basically, the government are bringing in a hate speech law or something like that, and it's basically to do with hate speech and it's trying to cut down hate speech and such racism and other words, cut down on racism. Um, it is hard. I'm not gonna lie to people. It is hard to define what's racist and what's offensive to people, and define without cutting people's freedom of speech off and without cutting people's voices off. And I think that's what the government's trying to do too, trying to cut people's voices off a tiny bit. Obviously there is a line between racism and freedom of speech. Obviously there is some things I would people's opinion does vary. Everybody has a different opinion of what's racist or what's inappropriate, I suppose you could say to say. But obviously, there's a few things I've heard in recent months and I've seen, and I would say there were, you know, hate speech. I will say there was a few things I have heard, um, by not good people I know, but people I've heard, from gangs and different like that. They're fair play. They want to bring in for them laws, but people who are trying to talk about immigration and just getting shouted down at by the government, and that's what they try to be get shut. They're trying to shut people up about that bit. Um, so basically, what I feel, and one of the things is immigration. Immigration is something that everybody has a different opinion on, and everybody, as soon as you mention the word, it's a huge shouting match over it. And we need to be easy. We have to listen to people's opinion to get how we can sort it out. Obviously, it is a very challenging issue. Immigration. It's very challenging for every country in Europe. And I think the Fine Gael government's trying to shut people down from opposing, people from other countries coming in. And I think that's another element they're trying to introduce here. But I have seen people being racist and spreading hate. I have seen it. I'm not gonna lie to people. I have seen it on different parts of it, and that obviously I never met these people. Like on YouTube, it's totally fine. I have no, there's no hate speech or anything on YouTube or Twitter, as far as I can see. Maybe a bit on Twitter, but there's not much. Um, but there obviously is a hate speech, and there's obviously people being threatened and threats to their life, threats to the family. That can't stand. But trying to shut people up about talking about immigration, talking about things, definitely is against freedom of speech. Obviously, you can express your feelings and your beliefs about asylum seekers and everything, and that's totally fine. That's I'm sure that's in the constitution. You can talk about direct provision, the set that's been put in your local towns and how you haven't agreed to it and how the community hasn't agreed to it. That's totally fine. Nobody can really complain about that. But there is a certain element. There is a bit, to everything there is, there is a line you can't cross. And obviously there is a line you can't cross with freedom of speech. So it is hard to define hate speech against the freedom of speech. And it is it will be very, very difficult for the Irish government to bring in a hate speech policy. It will be very, very difficult because first of all you have to try and you know balance it fairly and try and make it constitutional. Which is going to be very, very difficult to do because people's freedom of speech should be the first priority of any government. Freedom of speech, freedom to express yourself, freedom to express your views, freedom to choose religion, freedom, basic freedoms. And it's going to be it's going to be very, very hard for the government, and I don't think they will bring it in. But obviously there is, people being targeted and threatened online, and that's not racism, but it is the threatening to do things to people and everything like that, and that should not stand in any country. That should not stand. But anyway, I know people probably have different opinions on it. It is a hard one. It is very, very hard, and that's why I didn't talk about it beforehand. I would suggest people to go and watch a video on the Irish Patriots channel, or on Walter Chambers, where we did have a video up and it got taken down. But yeah, to go and watch the Irish Patriots channel. He has a video up and he explains it a lot better than me. And he probably has a bit more information than me. But I didn't want to talk about it straight away. I just said, look into it and see what I think of it. But again, I'm sure people have expected me to say that this is going to be hard for them to balance what's hate speech and what's freedom of speech. And obviously it's not going to be into effect, but I think it's going to be next year. So there's no really hurry on it. I don't think the government in any hurry of it. But I don't really know what to say. Like, I have seen people being threatened and all that. And that, that can't stand. Like, people being threatened because of their religious beliefs and, such and such and such and such and such and such. But there is a line. There's a line, the same as everything else. There's a line you can't cross. But anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe for more, and bye.